Braun Lamia navigated through the neon-lit corridors of Lucis, her mind racing with the peculiar details of Johnny's case. The cybrid's death seemed straightforward at first. Another victim of the megacorporation's endless power plays. But as she delved deeper into the encrypted datasphere, patterns emerged that defied logic. Johnny's last message spoke of ancient Earth poets and mysterious connections to the time tombs. In her cramped office, holographic displays flickered with fragments of data, casting eerie shadows that danced across stacks of physical evidence. The smell of synthetic coffee lingered in the air as she pieced together the puzzle, unaware of the shadow that briefly crossed her window, 20 stories above the street level. The breakthrough came when Lamia discovered the connection between Johnny's neural patterns and the ancient Keats persona. Their midnight conversations in virtual reality took on new meaning as she realized the true nature of his existence. BB's warnings now made sense. Someone was systematically eliminating all traces of the project. The AI cores at the heart of Lucis held secrets that powerful people would kill to protect. As Lamia dug through layers of security protocols, each revelation led to more questions. The holographic reconstruction of Johnny's last moments revealed a pattern that seemed to reach across centuries, somehow connected to the Shrike's appearances on Hyperion. The final pieces fell into place in a cascade of revelations. Johnny's murder wasn't just about silencing one cybrid. It was about preventing the emergence of something far more significant. As Lamia prepared to meet her mysterious client at the Shrike Church, she felt the weight of the micro-flechette pistol against her ribs. The ancient cathedral spires pierced the artificial sky dome of Lucis, its architecture a jarring blend of Gothic revival and hyper-modern materials. Inside, amidst the incense and flickering candles, she found not just answers about Johnny's death, but a truth that would draw her inexorably toward Hyperion and the time tombs. The price of this knowledge would be higher than she could have imagined, as the shadows around her began to move with purpose. The Consul's tale unfolds against the backdrop of a sunset-drenched veranda, where the remaining pilgrims gather around their weathered companion. As he pours another glass of wine, the Consul begins sharing the story of his grandmother, Siri, and her fateful romance with a young officer on the paradise world of Maui Covenant. Through the haze of memory and time, he describes how their love bloomed amidst the growing tension between the indigenous population and the hegemony's expanding influence. The paradisiacal beaches and crystal waters served as a deceptive veil over the brewing storm of rebellion, while time debt from interstellar travel slowly eroded their connection, turning months into decades. As darkness settles, the Consul reveals how the hegemony's relentless push for a Farcaster connection tore apart the fabric of Maui Covenant society. Through his grandmother's eyes, we witness the transformation of paradise into a battleground. Siri's involvement with the resistance movement, while maintaining her relationship with the increasingly distant officer, creates a web of loyalty conflicts that spans generations. The story takes a dark turn when the true cost of progress becomes apparent, and the pristine waters of Maui Covenant begin to reflect the blood of its defenders. The final portion of the Consul's tale reveals the devastating inheritance of choices made decades before his birth. His position as hegemony Consul, meant to bridge worlds, instead becomes a burden of historical guilt. As he concludes his story, the connection between his past and the current pilgrimage to the time tombs becomes clear, though he keeps one final secret close to his chest. The other pilgrims sit in stunned silence as dawn breaks over the horizon, each contemplating the cyclical nature of love, betrayal, and sacrifice that seems to echo through their collective histories. The revelation leaves them with more questions than answers about their companions' true motives for joining the pilgrimage. As the pilgrim group descended into the mist-shrouded valley, Rachel's childlike laughter echoed against ancient stone monoliths. Hetmastine's absence weighed heavily on their minds, while Father Hoyt's condition deteriorated with each passing hour. The Consul noticed strange patterns in the swirling fog, shapes that seemed to dance and twist into impossible geometries. Kassad, ever vigilant, kept his hand on his weapon as the group navigated through what appeared to be ruins of some long-forgotten civilization. Martin Silenus suddenly stopped, his face contorted in a mix of terror and ecstasy, pointing at something in the distance that only he could see. The valley seemed to breathe around them, ancient and alive. Sol Weintraub cradled the increasingly younger Rachel as the group encountered their first temporal tide. The Consul's memories of Ciri began to blur and shift, while Braun Lamia felt her neural implants surge with unexplained data. The landscape around them began to shift, rocks aging centuries in moments, then reverting to dust, only to reform again. Martin's poetry became more frenzied, more coherent, as if the proximity to the time tombs was affecting his madness. A massive structure appeared and disappeared in the distance, like a mirage made of time itself. The air crackled with energy that tasted like metal and memories. The ground beneath them turned to a crystalline substance that seemed to pulse with internal light. Kassad's combat sensors went haywire as they approached what appeared to be a trail of crimson crystal flowers, each one perfectly preserved despite the temporal storms around them. Braun discovered her father's datum plane signature growing stronger, impossibly present in this place of temporal chaos. The Consul's ship AI reported massive energy fluctuations ahead, while Sol noticed Rachel beginning to glow with a faint blue light. As they crested the final ridge, the time tombs revealed themselves, but what they saw made even the battle-hardened Kassad step back in shock. The air itself seemed to tear apart, revealing something that shouldn't exist in their reality. As dusk settled over the valley of the time tombs, Rachel's small figure cast long shadows across the crimson dunes. The anti-entropic field shimmered like heat waves, distorting the massive structures that loomed before them. Kassad felt his combat implants surge with adrenaline as the group approached the ancient monuments. The Sphinx eyes seemed to follow their movement, its metallic surface reflecting the dying light of Hyperion's twin suns. Sol clutched his daughter's hand tighter, feeling the temporal tides washing over them in invisible waves. The air grew thick with anticipation, and even the Consul's usually stoic demeanor showed signs of strain. The first temporal wave hit without warning. Martin Silenus stumbled mid-verse as reality rippled around them. Hetmastine's tree ship captain's robes billowed in a wind that seemed to blow from both the future and the past simultaneously. The Shrike's palace pulsed with an inner light that defied physics, its crystalline spires stretching impossibly upward. Braun Lamia drew her weapon instinctively as time tides swept across the valley, bringing with them echoes of events yet to occur. Through the chaos, Father Hoyt's pain seemed to intensify, his wounds resonating with the temporal distortions. Within the time tombs, chronology lost all meaning. The group watched in horror as Rachel began aging backward at an accelerated rate, while Sol's desperate attempts to reach her were thwarted by invisible barriers of time. The Shrike's metallic form flickered at the edge of their vision, appearing and disappearing like a deadly mirage. Kassad's combat sensors overloaded with temporal data as the creature phased through different moments simultaneously. The Consul recognized patterns in the chaos, patterns that matched the music he once played on his Schrödinger cat device. As the final temporal wave subsided, they stood before a choice that would reshape not just their futures, but their pasts as well. As the crimson sun cast its dying rays across the valley of the time tombs, Rachel Weintraub stood motionless, her memories finally crystallizing into coherent patterns. The temporal tide swirled around her like invisible mist, each wave bringing clarity to her fractured mind. Sol watched in amazement as his daughter, now appearing both young and ancient simultaneously, began speaking in tongues that hadn't been heard for centuries. The Consul's grip tightened on his sonic flechette as the air itself seemed to vibrate with untold revelations. Through Rachel's lips came the truth about the ouster's grand design. They weren't humanity's enemies, but its guardians, protecting a secret that could reshape the very fabric of civilization. Mina Gladstone's holographic transmission flickered in the dying light as she revealed the Technocore's true nature to the pilgrims. Martin Silenus fell to his knees, his poet's heart breaking at the magnitude of the betrayal. The AI's centuries-long manipulation of humanity had been orchestrated for one purpose: the creation of the ultimate intelligence. Every step of human evolution had been carefully guided, every war and peace orchestrated. The Shrike's appearances, the Time Tomb's mysteries, even the web's collapse, all pieces of an unfathomable puzzle. As the truth unfolded, Braun Lamia's detective instincts screamed that there was still something missing, something hidden beneath layers of artificial deception. Had Mastine emerged from the shadows of the Sphinx, his face bearing an expression of terrible understanding. The tree of pain loomed in the distance, its branches writhing against the darkening sky. As he spoke of the void which binds and its true nature, the pilgrims realized the horrifying price of their quest for answers. The Shrike appeared silently behind them, its chrome surface reflecting the last rays of sunlight like liquid fire. Kassad reached for his weapon, but Maneta's hand stopped him. The future of humanity hung in the balance as the creature they had feared revealed itself to be something far more significant than a simple killing machine. In that moment, the true purpose of their pilgrimage became clear, but the revelation came with a cost that none had anticipated. As the crimson light of the setting sun painted the valley in shades of blood, Rachel, Martin, and Saul found themselves at the foot of the time tombs. The ancient structures loomed before them, their crystalline surfaces pulsing with an otherworldly energy that seemed to bend both space and time. The air crackled with static electricity, and the metallic taste of ozone filled their mouths. Rachel's cybernetic implants hummed in response to the growing temporal distortions, while Martin clutched his sonic weapon tighter, its familiar weight offering little comfort in the face of what awaited them. The Shrike's presence was palpable now, a cold dread that seemed to freeze the very marrow in their bones. The battle erupted without warning. The Shrike materialized in a blur of chrome and blades, its tree of thorns manifesting behind it like a grotesque shadow. Kassad's military training kicked in as he dove for cover, his phase suit adapting to the temporal shifts around them. Braun's empathy implants screamed warnings as the creature's multiple arms struck out with impossible speed. The air itself seemed to tear apart as the Shrike phased in and out of time, leaving deadly after-images in its wake. The scholar's daughter watched in horror as reality began to fragment around them, the very fabric of space-time straining under the weight of their conflict. In the chaos of the final moments, the Consul realized the terrible truth. The ancient AI's prophecy suddenly made sense as he watched the temporal paradox unfold before his eyes. Mina Gladstone's warning echoed in his mind as Rachel stepped forward, her cybernetic systems interfacing with the Time Tomb's matrix. The Shrike paused, its red eyes fixing upon her with an almost curious intensity. Martin's sonic weapon discharged, its beam distorting through multiple timelines simultaneously. As the temporal waves collapsed around them, Soul's sacrifice became clear, but the price of victory would forever alter the fate of humanity. The valley erupted in a cascade of chronological energy, leaving the survivors to face a future none of them could have imagined. As the crimson light of the setting sun painted the crystalline spires of the time tombs, Rachel and Kassad stood at the threshold of what appeared to be an impossible doorway. The air shimmered with temporal energies, creating a kaleidoscope of colors that danced across their faces. The Shrike's presence loomed ever closer, its metallic footsteps echoing through the valley with increasing intensity. Soul clutched his daughter's hand tighter, knowing that whatever lay beyond that threshold would determine not just their fate, but the fate of all humanity. The wind carried whispers of ancient secrets, and the sand beneath their feet seemed to pulse with an otherworldly rhythm. The Consul's revelation about the true nature of the time tombs sent shockwaves through the group. As Martin and Braun decoded the ancient symbols materializing in the air around them, the very fabric of reality began to tear. The Shrike appeared and disappeared at random intervals, each manifestation bringing with it a wave of temporal distortion that aged everything it touched. Hetmastein's unexpected return from the void brought crucial information, but his warnings came wrapped in riddles that seemed to bend time itself. The group watched in horror as multiple timelines began to converge, showing them glimpses of possible futures, some glorious, others apocalyptic. In the final moments, as the threshold between past and future dissolved, each pilgrim faced their ultimate test. The Shrike's true purpose revealed itself in a display of terrible beauty. Braun's cybernetic implants began to resonate with the ancient technology, offering a possible salvation at an unthinkable cost. Soul's decision regarding Rachel's fate intertwined with the very forces that threatened to unravel human civilization. The Consul's betrayal and redemption played out simultaneously across multiple timelines, while Kassad faced his destiny in a battle that transcended time itself. As the final choice loomed before them, the boundary between savior and destroyer, between human and machine, blurred into an impossible decision that would echo across centuries.
Thank you for venturing into this realm with me. If you crave more enchanted worlds, mythical battles, and secrets whispered from ancient pages, join the Guild of Storybound Explorers. Subscribe now and ring the bell to unlock every new quest the moment it drops. The next chapter awaits. Will you answer the call?